Deep in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, there are Caterpillar machines from the 1940s still dragging timber out of mud that would swallow a modern truck hole. These are not museum relics. They are iron monsters that chewed through jungles in Vietnam, built airstrips on Pacific islands, and hauled old-growth timber out of mountains so steep that gravity itself was the enemy. Today, we are counting down 10 vintage cat forestry machines that the forest tried to kill but never could. Number 10. The Caterpillar 60. We are going all the way back to where it all started, and that means the Caterpillar 60, a machine that helped invent the idea of mechanized forestry. The Caterpillar 60 was originally introduced in 1919 as the CL Best 60 track layer, built by the CL Best Tractor Company. After Best merged with the Holt Manufacturing Company in 1925 to form the Caterpillar Tractor Company, the Best 60 was renamed the Caterpillar 60. CL Best was named the first chairman of the board of the newly formed company. This was a serious piece of iron for its era. The 60 was powered by a 4-cylinder overhead valve gasoline engine that produced 60 horsepower at the belt and 35 horsepower at the drawbar. It ran on a 72-inch gauge track system and weighed approximately 20,500 pounds. It was the largest tractor in Caterpillar's product line at the time. The 60 became one of Caterpillar's most successful early models. Between 1919 and 1931, a total of 18,948 units were manufactured across production facilities in San Leandro, California, and Peoria, Illinois. The machine was even sold as a logger cruiser, a designation that tells you exactly how important the logging industry was to Caterpillar from its very earliest days. Holt tractors had already become successful in West Coast logging and farming before the merger, and the 60 carried that legacy forward. These machines were used to drag timber out of the dense forests of California, Oregon, and Washington, at a time when horse teams and steam donkeys were still the primary tools of the logging trade. The 60 proved that a crawler tractor could go places wheeled machines could not, and it laid the foundation for every cat forestry machine that followed. The 60's influence even reached the Soviet Union. The Chelyabinsk tractor plant manufactured a copy of the Caterpillar 60 known as the Stalinet 60, showing just how widely respected this design was around the world. Number 9. The Caterpillar D6 with Hister winch. The Caterpillar D6 first appeared in 1935 as the RD6 fitted with a 3-cylinder 45-horsepower D6600 engine. The numbering was simplified to D6 in 1937. Over the following decades, more than 60,000 D6 tractors were built in just the early 4R, 5R, 8U, and 9U series alone, making it one of the most produced crawler tractors in history. But it was the combination of the D6 with a Hystera towing winch that turned this already versatile machine into an absolute forestry legend. The Hystera company, based in Portland, Oregon, had been manufacturing towing winches for Caterpillar tractors since 1929, starting with winches for the Caterpillar 60 model. By the time the D6 reached its stride, Hystera winches were standard equipment in logging camps across the Pacific Northwest. The D6 with winch could skid logs through terrain that would defeat anything on rubber tires. Its relatively compact size and moderate ground pressure meant it could work in tight spaces between standing timber without destroying the forest floor, the way heavier machines might. Loggers used it for everything from yarding individual logs to building skid roads and clearing landing areas. One of the most unusual chapters in T6 history came in the mid-1950s, when a Caterpillar dealer in Florida called Clewiston Motor Company replaced the tracks on D6 machines with rubber tires for U.S. Sugar Corporation. Around 150 of these special wheeled D6 units were built, nicknamed the Sugar Baby, and used to haul wagons carrying sugarcane from the fields to processing mills until the mid-1960s. While that was an agricultural application, it speaks to the extraordinary adaptability of the D6 platform. In the forest, they're still working in parts of the developing world. Their mechanical simplicity means local mechanics can keep them running indefinitely, making the D6 one of the longest-serving forestry machines in existence. Number 8. The Caterpillar D8 with logging arch. If the D6 was the workhorse of the smaller timber operations, the D8 was the heavyweight champion of old-growth logging. The D8 first appeared in 1935 as the RD8, powered by a 6-cylinder D13000 diesel engine, producing 115 horsepower. It became immediately popular for its balance of size and power. During World War II, the D88R series saw wartime production exceeding 9,900 units for military use. After the war, the civilian version, the D82U series, produced from 1945 to 1953, was a massive success with over 23,500 units delivered. In the forests, the D8 was commonly paired with a Hister-crawler-mounted logging arch. This combination was photographed as early as 1939, working for Bendixson Logging north of Campbell River, British Columbia. The logging arch was a critical piece of the system. It elevated one end of the log off the ground, reducing drag and allowing the tractor to pull much heavier loads over rough terrain. The D8's evolution through the D8H in 1958, with 191 horsepower from a purpose-built D342 diesel, and then the 300 horsepower D8K in 1974, kept it at the center of Pacific Northwest logging operations for decades. Many D8K units from the 1970s are still running strong today. Their mechanical simplicity, affordable rebuild costs, and bulletproof construction have made them favorites in regions where access to advanced diagnostic tools is limited. The D8's legacy in forestry is so deep that vintage equipment collectors have kept the spirit alive. A recreation of the famous twin D8 two D8 tractors joined together behind a single massive blade was built in 2013 from vintage 2U and 13A D8 models and now resides at the Antique Caterpillar Machinery Museum in Salem, Oregon. The original twin D8 concept was created by Peterson Tractor in the late 1940s and produced 269 drawbar horsepower with blades up to 21 feet wide. Number 7. The Caterpillar D7 with Rome plow. The D7 first appeared in 1938 and quickly became one of the most important tractors Caterpillar ever built. Approximately 10,000 units of the D7 7M series were produced between 1940 and 1944 for military use alone, and the 3T series, manufactured from 1944 to 1955, saw over 28,000 units built. But the D7's most legendary forestry role came during the Vietnam War, when specially modified D7E tractors were fitted with Rome plow kits manufactured by the Rome Plow Company in Rome, Georgia. The Rome plow was a specialized land clearing blade equipped with a stinger, a spike on one end of the blade designed to pierce large trees and split them down the center, making it easier for the dozer to push them over. The stinger blade alone weighed more than 2 tons, and when fully equipped, a Rome plow tractor weighed 48,000 pounds. Rome plows were mounted on Caterpillar D7E bulldozers and operated by dedicated land-clearing engineer companies. The 59th, 60th, 501st, 538th, 687th, and 984th Engineer Companies, followed in 1967 by the 169th Engineer Battalion. The Rome plow operations were some of the most dangerous work in Vietnam. The machines operated under harsh jungle conditions, and each platoon was assigned a tank platoon and an infantry company for security. Despite this protection, operators frequently became casualties. The enemy would shoot from the very greenery the units were working to clear, and the machines themselves were dangerous, with many operators lost to rollovers on uneven jungle terrain. Between 1967 and the end of the war, Rome plows cleared approximately 750,000 acres of forest, with a typical 30 plow company capable of clearing 150 to 200 acres per day. These Cat D7E machines earned the nickname Jungle Eaters, and they proved that Caterpillar iron could take on even triple canopy rainforest and win. Number 6. The Caterpillar 977 Traxcavator. The story of the traxcavator begins not with Caterpillar, but with a company called Traxon based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Traxon had been in business since 1922, initially building tract attachments for Fordson tractors. In the early 1930s, Traxon engineer Walter Stiemke recognized the potential of combining a crawler track system with a lifting mechanism for digging and excavating. In 1948, collaboration between Caterpillar and Traxon engineers produced the HT4 hydraulic shovel, an all-new design integrated with the D4 tractor. Caterpillar was so impressed that they bought the entire Traxon company outright in 1951, along with the trademark traxcavator name. The 977 traxcavator was introduced in 1955 as the largest in Caterpillar's track loader lineup, boasting 170 horsepower and bucket capacities up to 2.5 cubic yards. It replaced the earlier No. 6 shovel, of which Caterpillar had manufactured 1,613 units in just 2 years. In forestry, the 977 was used for log loading, land clearing, road building, and sorting at landing areas. Its track design gave it stability on soft ground and steep slopes that wheeled loaders could not handle. The 977 went through several model updates. The 977D, 977H, and 977K, and had a production run from 1955 all the way to 1982, making it one of Caterpillar's longest-running track loader lines. The traxcavator design eventually evolved into the modern 953 and 973 track loader series, which are still in production today and continue to serve the forestry industry. The 977's DNA runs through every Cat track loader working in the woods today. Number 5. The Caterpillar 955 traxcavator. While the 977 was the heavyweight, the 955 traxcavator was the mid-range workhorse that became the darling of small and medium logging operations across North America. Introduced in 1955 as part of Caterpillar's new 900 series traxcavator range, the 955 offered around 100 to 115 horsepower from a D330 engine and came with a 1.5 to 1.75 cubic yard bucket. It was smaller and more maneuverable than the 977, which made it ideal for working in tighter spaces between standing timber. The 955 had an incredibly long production run, from 1955 all the way to 1981, making it one of the longest produced machines in Caterpillar's track loader history. During that quarter-century span, the 955 evolved through the 955H, 955L models, each bringing improvements to hydraulics, operator comfort, and engine power. Forestry operators loved the 955 because it was overbuilt for its size class. Forum discussions among Caterpillar enthusiasts frequently note that the smaller traxcavators were so heavily constructed that they did not have enough power to hurt themselves. A backhanded compliment that speaks volumes about their durability. One owner reported running a 951B, a close relative of the 955, for 34 straight years before selling it, with no major repairs required during that entire period. The 955 was used for loading logs onto trucks, building access roads, clearing brush, and maintaining landing areas. In many logging camps, it was the first machine to arrive and the last to leave. Its track design allowed it to operate safely on slopes up to 35 degrees, a critical capability in mountainous timber country. Number 4. The Caterpillar 518 skidder. When Caterpillar entered the purpose-built skidder market, they brought the same over-engineered philosophy that had made their dozers legendary. The Cat 518 was a rubber-tired grapple skidder that became a staple of logging operations from the 1970s through the 1990s. The 518 was powered by a Caterpillar 3304 four-cylinder engine and featured a 3-speed powershift transmission. It came with a front-mounted blade for clearing and road building and could be equipped with either a cable winch or a swing boom grapple for log handling. The articulated frame gave it tight maneuverability in the woods, while the heavy-duty axles and drivetrain could handle the constant punishment of dragging logs over rough terrain. What made the 518 special was its build quality relative to competitors. While other skidder manufacturers were cutting corners to hit price points, Caterpillar built the 518 to the same standards they applied to their construction equipment. The frame was heavier, the components were more robust, and the machine could take abuse that would destroy lighter competitors. The 518 evolved through the 518C model in the early 1990s, and machines from this era are still actively sought after on the used equipment market. You can still find 1978 and 1993 model year 518 skidders listed for sale and described as currently working machines. Some have accumulated over 20,000 hours and have been rebuilt multiple times, each time coming back for more. The 518 has become something of a cult classic among small logging operators who value durability over features. Number 3. The Caterpillar D5 HTSK. TSK stands for Timber Skidding Tractor, and the Cat D5H TSK was one of the most specialized forestry machines Caterpillar ever produced. It was a tracked skidder based on the proven D5H dozer platform, but with significant modifications that made it purpose-built for timber work. Caterpillar created specially balanced versions of its D4H and D5H tractor dozers specifically for skidding applications. The track frames were moved to the rear so the machines would balance better when carrying a skidding load. This seemingly simple modification made an enormous difference in stability and productivity. The D5H TSK came equipped with an 8-roller undercarriage, extra-wide tracks for reduced ground pressure, a 6-way blade, and either a fixed boom or swing boom grapple from manufacturers like Esco. A cable winch was available for operations where grapple access was limited. The enclosed cab with screens provided protection from falling debris in the woods. What made tracked skidders like the D5H TSK valuable was their ability to work in terrain where rubber-tired skidders could not go. Steep slopes, soft ground, swampy areas, and heavy snow conditions all favored the tracked machine. The D5H TSK could crawl into places where a wheeled skidder would simply spin its tires and sink. These machines developed a loyal following among loggers in the Pacific Northwest, the Northeast, and Canada's boreal forests. The D5H TSK is still found on forestry equipment dealer lots today, with used units showing rebuilt engines and thousands of hours on the clock. The fact that these machines from the late 1980s and 1990s are still considered working machines, not antiques, tells you everything about how Caterpillar built them. Number 2. The Caterpillar 527 Track Skidder. The Cat 527 represented Caterpillar's commitment to building purpose-designed tracked forestry machines, rather than simply adapting construction equipment for the woods. The 527 was a dedicated track skidder designed from the ground up for logging applications. It featured a low ground pressure undercarriage with wide tracks that minimized soil disturbance, a critical consideration as environmental regulations around forestry operations became increasingly stringent. The machine came with a swing boom grapple, a cable winch, and a front-mounted brush rake or blade. The hydraulic system was designed for the constant cycling demands of log handling work, with higher flow rates than standard construction machines. The cab was purpose-built for forestry work, with reinforced structures, screens, and guarding to protect the operator from falling trees and debris. The 527 was particularly valued in steep slope logging operations, where its tracked undercarriage provided traction that wheeled skidders simply could not match. In the steep terrain of the Pacific Northwest and the Appalachian Mountains, the 527 could maintain control on grades that would send a rubber-tired machine sliding. The 527 TSK, upgraded with modern Tier 4 final engines, demonstrates the remarkable longevity of this platform. Peterson Cat, one of the most respected forestry equipment dealers on the West Coast, continues to support and customize these machines for their logging customers. The 527 has proven that a purpose-built tracked skidder designed with Caterpillar's signature over-engineering can outlast generations of loggers. Number 1. The Caterpillar 568 Forest Machine. At number 1, we have the machine that represents the culmination of everything Caterpillar learned from nearly a century of building forestry equipment. The Cat 568 Forest Machine. The industry took notice when the Cat 568 was introduced in 2011. This machine quickly proved itself as a reliable asset in the western woods, moving logs in tough ground conditions in ways no other machine could. The 568 is Caterpillar's largest tracked forest machine, weighing in at over 106,000 pounds in some configurations, with up to 347 horsepower available for the heaviest loading and handling operations. The 568 is available in both general forestry and log loader configurations. The general forestry model is designed for roadwork, grappling, processing, and delimbing. With a reach boom and quick coupler system, operators can equip the machine with processors, buckets, thumbs, mulchers, and other attachments to handle multiple tasks without switching machines. The log loader configuration is purpose-built for truck loading, shovel logging, and milliard applications. What makes the 568 earn the top spot on this list is not just its raw capability, but the way it incorporates lessons from every vintage Cat that came before it. The undercarriage technology traces back to the elevated drive sprocket first pioneered on the D10 dozer in 1977. The hydraulic systems build on decades of winch and grapple experience from machines like the D8 with logging arch. The cab design reflects the hard-won safety lessons from Rome plow operations in Vietnam, where operator protection was literally a matter of life and death. Fifth-generation Oregon logger Jeremy Hart, whose family has been in the timber business for generations, put it simply after getting his hands on the next-generation 568. He said that in the logging industry, you only make money if you produce lots of logs, and this machine is more productive than the old model while using 20% less fuel. That kind of testimony from a logger whose family has been running cat iron for 5 generations is the ultimate validation of a machine's place in forestry history. The 568 also features Caterpillar's Smart Mode technology, which automatically adjusts engine and hydraulic power based on the task at hand. Less power for swinging, more power for lifting, to maximize fuel efficiency without sacrificing productivity. The certified forestry cab provides the safety and comfort that modern operators demand, while maintaining the rugged durability that has defined cat forestry equipment for 100 years. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us which vintage cat forestry machine you have personally worked with or seen in action. Whether it was a D6 with a winch in the mountains of British Columbia, a 5-on-8 skidder in the pine forests of the southeast, or a D7 clearing timber on a construction site, we want to hear your stories. Until next time, keep those tracks turning and those logs moving.